Neil, and welcome to the Crosscast. It's episode 6 of season 9. In fact, it's much more than episode 6 of season 9. This is actually episode 100 of the Crosscast. So well done if you've listened to the first 99 and you're partway into listening to number 100. So, 100, big number. But the question is, of course, can Lucinda Brand catch up with her unbroken streak of over 50 podiums? She's achieved that in less than 2 years, so she can keep it up for another 2. She'll get to 100, but then we'll be ahead, won't we? Yes. Anyway, in today's Crosstalk, we will be reviewing the first 2 World Cups of this season. It came from Czechia and from France. We'll, of course, hear from Zan of how it was on the dirt or the ice or the ground or whatever it was underneath those wheels. And in today's Laatste Ronde, we've got 4 really different races to preview. We've got an upcoming national trophy from Bradford. We've got 2 World Cups, one from Sardinia and one from Namur. And it's what I think is one of the best courses in the calendar, Kortrijk. And we'll find out if Matt and Zan agree with my views on that. So it brings me naturally to introduce my podcast pals. I'm joined in the studio by Matt Payne and by Zan Crease. So Matt, we're here, episode 100. So what are your thoughts? 100 down.
100. I can't quite actually believe we've reached 100. We must be absolutely mental. Not nearly as mental as everybody who's listening. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I have to say, when we started this way back, and I heard that Neil and Bruce were doing the Crosscast, the podcast. I thought, that sounds like a great idea, particularly because we'd just lost the coverage of all of the continental crosses, and it's kind of evolved in so many different ways since then. We've had so many different features. From in the pits interviews with international stars right the way through now to the current, what I consider to be the dream team alongside me. I'm not part of that, but the two alongside me here. I think it's really great. Thank you, everybody who's been a guest, everybody who's been in an interview, everybody who's downloaded it. 100 episodes. Do you know what? I still love cross. I love the fact that it's still the most exciting discipline, I think, out there. And I if you'd said to me after 100 podcasts, could I find anything new to say about it? I would say yes every single time, because the racers, the riders, the racing, it's just, there's always something happening in cross. And that is the essence of cross. And that it kind of makes doing this show easy, because, I always just sort of view it, it's when we go record, I sort of sit down with my mates, sit on the sofa, and we talk about bike racing. I mean, what better could to do? So, yeah, an absolute pleasure to do that. And I think it's great that we've got Zan with us now. Zan, thank you very much for joining us. It's great to have you here. I was expecting you to be in some nice, warm foreign climate, maybe olive groves in the background, suppressors, heading somewhere that looks not quite as continental as maybe I was expecting.
No, correct on that one. And also thank you guys for having me for the last 2 years or 2 seasons of this podcast. But yeah, so I'm actually back at home for the minute, not for a very long time. But yeah, I've had some exciting new little updates. So I've had to come back home for a little bit, and I'm sure I will talk to you more about that very, very soon. But yeah, it's also quite nice to come home and actually see my family, because we've worked out with how busy the racing's going to be over Christmas, we're going to miss out on a lot of family time. So now we've got this, because Cabras is obviously this weekend, which I'd have loved to have done. It looks like such an amazing course, and all my friends that went to it last year, even though they didn't race, were like, actually, we're staying for longer this year because we really want to spend some more time there. It was such a good place to go. But because the season's so packed, I needed to take a week off, and this just felt as a really good time for me to have a little break in my season. So I'm not racing this weekend. So I'm seeing my family, staying at home, kind of just recharging a little bit and getting ready for that really big block of racing over Christmas that I'm sure many other Brits are either out there to go watch, whether you're racing yourself for the first time or the 1,000th time, which everyone knows that's just like the highlight of the cross period. But yeah,
It is. It is. It's good to see. I just want to ask you, when we first started the Crosscast, Sam, that was 9 years ago. 9 seasons ago.
Yep.
You shouldn't ever ask anybody their age, but how old were you 9 years ago, Sam?
That was 2016, so I will have been 15 at that point. So I would have been my first year junior.
And at that point, did you ever think you would be crazy enough to, well, one, to have achieved what you've achieved in terms of cyclocross racing, but also to then get stuck on a podcast with Neil and me?
I definitely don't think that was on my expectations list. I think at that age, I was probably dreaming of achieving the things I had. Whether at that point it was goals and targets is a different story. But it's definitely one of those things like you sit in there like you want to do and everything you're doing is to try and get there. But I think to some degree, like especially with where I was at 16 or 15, that I'd kind of surpassed where I thought I would probably be at this point in my career anyway. And then again, back then I was just someone who listened to the podcast. I don't say a child, but I was quite young and I was still developing and growing. So I would have never seen myself as one of the podcast hosts or even having enough thoughts to be able to talk about this kind of stuff. So it's quite nice actually to be like, oh, hello, actually, guys, I now have some experience in this field and I can join you and have these conversations with you.
Yeah, Zan, I'm sure that even before the Crosscast started, when I was doing other special features on some other shows, I interviewed you after you had raced Koppenberg when you were a junior. I believe, I'm sure.
Possibly, I think at a Notts Derby round.
That's
potentially.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it was like you'd just gone onto the continent. You'd just been on racing along with all the pros at that point. So yeah, it's been a great journey. I'll see if I can find the file somewhere. I bet I've got it archived on a hard drive somewhere. That would be so much fun.
Neil, I just want to ask you, just talking about these sort of 100 episodes, you kicked all this off. It's your baby that's grown into now heading, episode 9. It's not quite Terrible Teens yet, but it's growing. It's growing. Did you ever think we'd be here in season 9?
No, I have to say
100 shows.
No, but the thing is, when we began, what we wanted to do was to see the sport grow, and if you remember, it was because there were us strange people who would watch it on these funny streams in funny languages, and it was what we had in common with each other, and this was a way that we could sort of talk about it, and so I think when it all came back with English language commentary, was it on Red Bull, wasn't it, for a while? So it's ages ago, and so I wouldn't have thought that it would have kind of survived beyond that when there was plenty of other content. But actually, we found our voice, we found our niche. And people like hearing about what we're doing, and it is the place to go if you want to find out about certainly UK national trophy, that scene. And I don't think there's anything else like it, and so there's people that do different things, and that's great, and they're entertaining, enjoyable. But I think what we've come to do is given all three of us an excuse to have a chat with our mates every couple of weeks without being disturbed. We can lock the door and we can talk about what we love.
Just talk about 100%. Neil, and you were flying around the world last time we spoke. You were heading off, transcontinental work trip. Was it everything you thought it would be?
And more so. Yeah, it was superb. It was absolutely amazing. Yeah. So I was in Uganda, and we were there on I was there. The dates were there so that I could do some stuff at a it's called Equitable Partnerships, and thing that we're doing. Yeah. So diverting into that work side, the issue is that we've sort of, when you get sort of north-south partnerships in particular, they can be really unbalanced, and it's what's right. What does good look like when you've got partners, say, in this case it was Uganda. We had people there from all over Africa, as well as people from Europe. What's the right thing to do in that sort of situation? And that was absolutely fantastic. And then sort of bouncing on from that into building so many new partnerships there. And then Kenya is completely different again. It's absolutely superb. I went on for some amazing runs. If you follow me on Strava, search for Crosscast Neil again, and look for my runs when I was in Kenya. And I was supposed to be on a run, and the run was stop for 20 minutes while we watched the monkeys. It was just brilliant. We had so much fun. But what's nice with that is the reason we were there is because that forest was not a forest 15 years ago. So we're working there with the CERC, Centre for Ecosystem Restoration, Kenya, and they've restored that forest with native trees. And that's where the monkeys were, in the native trees.
Brilliant.
And then now that's growing, and it's anyway. Big diversion, but yeah,
Fantastic.
I had a lovely time. I went running several times, running in Uganda, running in Kenya, and it was just wonderful. Yeah, I had a really good time. One of those things where you think, this is my job. I'm getting paid to do this. This is so cool.
And that must have been a real shock to come back, because I know you were really busy at the weekend, because it was the gritty supported Notts and Derby Cyclocross League, but it was your home round. It's the home Pierpont.
That's right. Yeah, we supported lots of races in so many ways over the years, but we've never actually been organisers. So it wasn't me. I was protected in the run-up. So Finn,
or everybody else was protected from you.
Well, yes, that's true actually. So Finn was the main organizer. He did a wonderful job. And there was one bit in the woods where I put in some new lines, and I was so pleased because I gave people choices, and I really, really enjoyed that. So there were multiple different lines you could take, and I set them up, and I had no idea which one was going to be the quickest line, and that was brilliant. People loved it. It was so cool. But it's a great venue, Home Pierpont. It went really well. It was quite muddy. Yeah, it wasn't like running. I kind of have my threshold. There's like all these different versions of mud. My threshold is: do you have to run when it's flat? And no, it wasn't. It wasn't that.
That's the point where it's like,
yeah. So it wasn't there.
Or downhill.
Yeah, that's even worse. But it was certainly enough. So there was quite a bit of squirmage around. There were ruts that were kind of coming in around the course. Good venue, good race. Loved it.
Brilliant. Love it. It certainly looked a lot muddier than perhaps where Zan is. I was watching Zan go just going green with envy about squirmage and mud.
Yeah, it feels like wherever I go at the moment, the mud that was forecast disappears.
Can you come to France?
I did go to France and it dried up.
Yeah, well, come. Yeah, exactly, but not far enough south. Just come a bit further south, and then if you want mud, you can have a cyclocross course in the back field. Because at the moment there is, literally when I walk it, I'm sliding across. Never mind on the training hills at the back. You can't even get onto them at the moment. It'd be like you see the kids on the coverage and they're sliding down in the water, Bruce. It's a bit like that going out at the moment, and I might have done that earlier on, checking out one of the run-ups that we have just across the back of the valley.
Zan, when you were out in Czechia, it was you didn't get any mud because it was all frozen. Was it -8 when the
it was -8. Yeah, and I don't think that day it actually went above 0 degrees, because I did my practice lap and I was like, okay, it's a bit slippy, I need to be careful here. And then it came to the race and it was worse, and I've never seen a course get more frozen after practice, because you always just tell yourself it's going to defrost. It only gets warmer as the day goes on. And I think it did get warmer, but that warmer was still below 0. So it was still freezing. I felt better when I talked to someone like the lad, right? Like I spoke to Cam Mason after the race, and he was like, I bet that was different from your course practice. And I was like, yeah, and I didn't think it would be. But that made me feel better, because obviously the men course practice just before the elite women's race, and then obviously they race after us. And so apparently just throughout the day it just kept getting more frozen. That's why I think if you watch the men's race, you'll probably have seen quite a few like slip and slides on corners they were probably fine on the lap before, or you're like, oh, that looks like a quite straightforward corner. And it's one of those ones, it's like you could in theory tire up and put a mud tire on, but it was just ice. Like, I think even a mud tire isn't going to get any grip or purchase on it because there was nothing to grip into.
Yeah. And was it like eroding into sort of frozen underneath? Was it that bad?
Like, I wouldn't say it was too frozen underneath. Like, the top layer was like quite all right. It was just a case of corner, and it was typically the corners, like the straights, you weren't like dancing on ice or anything quite like that. But it was every corner, and particularly like the slightly downhill corners where you'd be like, okay, this is a nice line, this will be fine. And then next thing you knew, your wheel will be washed out underneath you and you'll be lying on the floor.
So did that happen to you?
Oh, that happened far too much to me.
No.
I think I don't want to say I got carried away, but I had a fairly decent start at Tabor, and
You
I was
did,
like,
yeah.
wow.
Great start.
Yeah, because one of the things you do when you're riding, particularly as a rider like me that isn't necessarily at a World Cup expecting to be one of the front 5 riders, you'd go around and cross back and you're like, right, that's going to be a run on lap 1, that's going to be a run on lap 1, I'm going to have to be careful because I'm going to be fighting for lines. So for Tabor, there's like an up-down bank really early on. I was like, that's a run. And then if you've seen it, you'll know there's this section where on the left there's this dry, nice line, and on the right there's some rutted lines. And I'd braced myself to run all of that section. And I got to it probably 7th wheel, and I was like, oh, I don't have to get off. I can ride that dry line. And it was such a nice thing. But I think, especially somebody like me, like this, like whilst I felt quite good and quite confident, I said the course had changed a little bit, and I was probably like a little bit like, oh my gosh, like I'm on like Ribaroli's wheel in a World Cup. What on earth is this? And like half a lap in, like how it looked like fine, and then that's when it started, and then I just could not keep myself upright. But we don't see those conditions very often, and like for me, I still had a great race. I still really enjoyed it, and like it just leaves you wondering what if, but you'll never know, so you may as well just move on with it.
Yeah, but yes, okay, that is correct. It is a kind of a what if, but you could also could be like a what if not. So it's like what you got out of it a brilliant, cracking race. You you've talked about it yourself before about how like, okay, you kind of need to bag the experience from finding yourself in a slightly different position. So next time you're in that position, you're like, okay, I've been here before, So when you are top 10 at Tabor next year, you kind of have, what it's going to be like in those types of situations. But it was it was an absolute classic Tabor. I don't think there was anything different about the course at all compared to previous years. But it's great. I watched it live on UCI. I didn't need to VPN because I was outside drinking my coffee, had the biggest slice of cake ever, outdoors.
20 plus degrees, 30 degrees.
Yeah, I know it was. Yeah. I've got a photo of it somewhere. Actually, I'll have to pop it on a social somewhere of me watching it live on my iPad while I was working, sitting outside. But that was relevant when I started. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, whatever. It gave us. Yeah, there was so much action in both those races. Actually, the men's and the women's race. Yeah, we had in the men's race, Nys. But yeah, he started his 25-26 World Cup run with a win, first of 2, as we know. So he was ahead of Sveik and Nieuwenhuis in those top 2. Women's race, we know a bit what happened at the start from Uzan, but Brand took that win ahead of Casasola and Van der Heijden. In that, certainly in the men's race, at the end of that, I was thinking, well, there have been so many really impressive performances here. We had, of course we got Nys. He's had World Cup wins before, but I think I sort of felt this one felt different. It was sort of a confident. It wasn't opportunistic. It was like, this is starting the season.
It wasn't desperate.
Yeah,
and he's kind of till this season, I've and almost to this race, I've kind of felt there's almost been a bit of desperation. That sort of you see him coming into a finish and he's throwing himself into corners that he shouldn't be doing, or he's diving on the inside. didn't seem that. It just felt like this is where I'm meant to be, and this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I don't care what you throw at me. I'm just going to do my thing, and it's going to be better than you. And it was. And it feels like we started a new chapter of Thibaut Nys. You know, we've done the early stages, and now we're coming to the this is what we can expect for a while. I think, very much so. I was very confident, very assured, but still Thibaut. You know, still Thibaut. It was still obviously him racing, and I thought that was, you know, I don't want to see another massive dominance by one rider, but he didn't half look good. He didn't half look good. Depressingly so for everybody else. He just looked like he's going to be there. I mean, you know, I know, Neil, you're going to say Lawrence Feet, what a ride by Feet. And it's good to see him back up at the pointy end. Well, we can guarantee the thing if Lawrence Feet is in a race, you're going to talk about him.
No, but I think it was because of where it was. It was at Tabor, and he, of course, he's. I keep hoping to get Lawrence Vic fan club membership for Christmas, but we'll see. So that rate, it was like he took it on. It wasn't his conditions, and I thought, we got Nys and we got Svig. Both of those have had really good days, and then you got Strohmeyer, who, if that race had been like one lap shorter, he'd have had these top 10.
Were you counting down like me, going waiting for him to just go?
Yeah, and it took so the wheels long. Fall off the wagon. It took such a long time. And then
brilliant riding. It was really good to see.
But and he's got USA national champs. I don't know if he'll go back for it. Actually, that's this weekend, next weekend, coming up soon anyway. And then Mason,
he's got the Conti jump jersey, hasn't he?
Yeah. And then Mason had his. It was like after being on such good form. And it was like, it's all over, and you haven't even gone around one corner.
I know. We were watching live and watched coming in and into the corner, and there was just, I'm sure everybody in the area was sort of like, what on earth has just happened? Because we were shouting us, because I couldn't believe it. I was like, no. And how he then got from there to the pit, I thought that was some ride just to get to the pit. I know he lost positions, but on a day where he put in a heck of a ride, actually, it's very easy to ignore the bit that he did before changing bikes, because the bit that he did before changing bikes, actually, I think saved him his race as much as putting in the performance afterwards.
Yeah, and that's on a tire that we've been fully deflated on a frozen course. I think unless you've ridden a bike with a flat tire anywhere, you're not going to know just how impressive that is. That really, really is.
And on that course, Sam, I mean, the way that I can't think of a course, to be honest, where you've got as much of an issue. That whole section where you're coming back along, sort of adjacent to where you went out just after we got the puncture, and you're coming back and it's that ditch, and you saw the ditch and that's there in the banking, then you can't see it on the camera. That's actually just it really is just a ditch. That's all it is. It's literally a ditch bottom that you come back on. If with that tire down, you just brilliant riding, really, really impressive to get back. And then what followed, I mean, for me was, you would, what could have been. That's what could have been.
That is definitely what could have been.
Yeah. I mean, from the start to when he first went over the timing map, which was 16 seconds in, he went over that in 39th. In the first 16 seconds, he dropped to 39th. That shows you how quickly he had his problem. But then from when he had finished his first lap, you got to remember, he's coming through traffic here. Mm-hmm. He overtook pretty much the entire field.
Yeah.
And he was like a minute behind, basically, at the end of his first lap. And at the end of the race, he was 37 seconds behind, including overtaking everyone, which shows you he was the quickest over the entire race, basically, from the end of the halfway through the first lap all the way to the finish.
Yeah, I mean, and the speed, the way he was riding, from having the tire ripped out on the side of the barrier and just completely flat, to riding the roller coaster. That for me, there was a Cameron Mason once upon a time, not all that long ago. There was a young rider called Cameron Mason whose head would have gone down, and that would have been the end of the race. And that rider's gone. We now have Cameron Mason 3.0, no mind 2.0, 3.0. He's here and he's back, and this is him being totally on it. I was so impressed, like you say, 37 seconds down. And when you think about all the people he's overtaken on the way through to get there, riders who've been on great form, to get back there, it's fantastic. I was just, for me, that was the ride.
Yeah. I think we're all going to be slightly biased, obviously, as British fans of cyclocross, but the way he came through is absolutely insane. I think when you're saying what if, that's the one rider where that could have crushed him. He could have gone, oh, actually, I gained on the leader from that far back. I could have won this, and that could have crushed him. And obviously, we're obviously going to go into like Flammanville, but it's clearly not got to. He's clearly taken that as a confidence boost and not as a step backwards, which I think is also really impressive to say. And it says a lot about his mental game this year and how much he's stepped up.
Yeah.
Yeah, very assured, very, very assured ride. I was really impressed. I was pleased to see Joris Nieuwenhuis riding as well as he was, as always. Still, Joris, if I see you, I'm going to present you with he just reminds me of a Smurf. I don't know why. He does. Or like Dopey of the Dwarfs. Like he's got the hat. When he's got his hat on, I'm going to tell him this when I see him, because I will see him. I'm going to say, just because he's got like the beard and the smiley face, and he's like so, he's always smiling, and he's always like, he is. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Absolute. I love him at pieces. I think and I love it when he's going well, because the smile just gets bigger. It's like he loves every race, but he went even better, and it was just great. Joris Nieuwenhuis on form is going to mix the racing up.
Yeah.
Jenti Mikkels did a good ride.
He's been
good all season.
Exactly. Yeah, he's just been quietly really good. So I think I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes up with a surprise win. It's just like he's kind of ready.
I kind of follow that. Yes.
Yeah. It's like he's kind of got all the ingredients. It's got to go his way. I don't think he's. I don't think he'd do it like on pure. If everyone else has a good day, I don't think he would be better than them if he's on a good day. But if it kind of falls right for him, it's the right race. It's people are at the right stage of their training. I think he's got it this season to take a big win. Yeah, and then I really enjoyed watching the women's race at Tabor. Watched it more than once. In fact, I screen recorded it and on my phone, and then so I could watch it on my way home. That's
a smart move. There's the reason you're a professor and I'm not. I didn't think about doing that.
But I really enjoyed watching it. But it was good racing. But I sort of felt, where was the decisive moment? I really struggled to come up with sort of what the big story was in the women's race. It kind of was exciting. It was good. I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't boring at all, but it was sort of like, what was the thing? And I think it was
business as usual, wasn't it? It kind of felt like business as usual.
And I felt that Bran and Casasola were like, okay, right, round 2, here we go. And it was like this, and I kind of felt it was like, it's like you've had the introduction to your book, you've had chapter 1, it always draws you in, and it's really exciting, like what happened at European Champs, for example. And then we kind of now in like, this is sort of almost felt like chapter 2. It's like, okay, right, we're getting the characters, we're getting that development here, and then this is going to carry on. So I think it's really interesting, but I kind of didn't feel that there was like a massive moment in that race. But what we did get,
I think you're right. Yeah. There was nothing magic, but there were no standout moments. You know, if I was calling, it'd be really difficult to do. You know, to say you need to put this in the highlights or that in the highlights, because there kind of wasn't a highlight. It was all good. You know, we've had years and years of the women's racing being far, far and away the best racing, and this time round, kind of the men's kind of was potentially, arguably, actually better.
I don't think it was, but it was still a really brilliant race to watch. That's the thing with it. It was like it was like good, really interesting all the way through it. It was like a mini series rather than a movie. You know,
Ooh,
end of every
that's
chapter,
an interesting analogy.
end of every episode, there was the mini cliffhanger rather than you know. But what we did
gotta
get,
say, some good rides, weren't there? There were some good rides in there.
Absolutely, yeah. But what I was to say was what we got at that round, and I don't quite know how it happened, but we got all 5 races being televised with commentary on YouTube. I think the junior men, junior women under 23 men are all non-geo restricted, I believe. So there was plenty to watch. I tell you, there was a lot there. Yeah.
Czechia TV wanted to show everything. They are the host broadcasters. So they're the people actually putting the show out in their host nation. They wanted to show it, and that was the driver behind it. That then meant everybody else was stepped up and actually jumped on board and went, yeah, of course. If you're gonna, if you can do that, then we'll do our little bit to help out. And the result was we saw all 5 races, which was brilliant. I have watched them all multiple times. Yeah. I have to admit, to make the most of it, because you don't often get the opportunity to look at the juniors and the under 23.
And if they hadn't, they wouldn't have had that amazing women junior race, which I so much enjoyed that race. Which we got Czechia winner with Bukowska, who's almost getting into Lawrence Feek levels of fandom, and because her and Revol
high praise indeed.
Absolutely amazing race. It was so good as a race.
Czechia had a good weekend, didn't they? Because I mean, Zemanova was flying as well, and you saw Zemanova. She was on a good day, and I was very interested to see the riders who we haven't seen all season coming through in the racing. We see it in the junior racing, but also to see it in the senior racing. Magli Rochette making a return to racing, coming in and through, and she had a good race in that women's race. And you look at the juniors coming up, and I think the juniors, when we go into the future, we're going to see more and more of these great juniors coming through. And I think it's really bright. Watch out, Sam.
Yeah, if you don't have to tell me
where
twice,
you were when we started the Crosscast.
Yeah.
They're doing what you were doing when we started the shows.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is crazy to see the talent at that age, though. And it's so nice to actually be able to see it and them get the respect they deserve and actually getting shown to their families back at home too.
Yeah. So after being in Tabor, Zam, what did you do after Tabor? Was it a long drive?
So that was one of the ones that picked the drive option. I think there was quite a variation of some riders flew, some riders continued to drive along. But I actually drove and stopped at Belgium, so I kind of have a little home or a base in Belgium. And I was like, actually, I'm going to go spend a week there before I come back for the rest of the season. But it's just quite nice because, yes, I could go somewhere new, ride somewhere new. But actually, when I stop there, I know the bed I'm sleeping in. I know where I'm going to go do my shopping. I know. And it's such simple things, but it makes a huge difference. I don't have to try and work out where am I going to do my efforts on my ride. I'm going to do it on that road because I've ridden that road 100 times. And it was it gave you this calm in the middle of a really busy block. So I'm a big fan of if you've got somewhere and you can stay, do it. And it just split up that block really nicely for me. Before then on the Friday, I headed over all the way to Flamanville, which felt like a very small drive compared to the drive all the way to Czechia.
Yeah. And then how was it? It looked like it was obviously it was a completely different experience, completely different race. What were your impressions? How did it all go for you?
Oh, well, it definitely was completely different. But my thing was we were on the drive and, it was raining and it was miserable. And I was like, yes, come on, cross weather, here we go. And one of my friends was on the course before I got there because I rode on the Saturday just to get a bit more of a feel for it. And then she texted me when I was at the Val and she was like, yeah, it's not muds. And I was like, no, what do you mean it's not muds? I'd been like almost hyping myself up for this really muddy race. Saying that though, it is still a really good course. It's one of these ones, because I haven't done it yet, it kind of has all these like really like tricky technical features like the banks where you come down quite a nasty angle and then typically you're going straight back up it, and they're not particularly long and they're not particularly steep, but you haven't got to run at it to get up quite high quite quickly, which made them really tricky. As well as that, you kind of had like lots of big sweeping corners. And I don't know whether it shows on TV, but a lot of the fields were kind of like, I had like these tiny little rollers and were quite rutted. And they just killed your speed. You'd come into them and you'd be like, right, there's all my speed gone. And you kind of like force the bike over them. But what was interesting is then, so I rode it in the course practice. I was like, this is quite a technical course. This is quite fun. I quite like this. And then it came to race day. And it made for such bunchy, close racing. And when you practiced it, you didn't get that feel until you suddenly then were in the race. And it was actually raced very similar to Tabor, that there were lots of like little mini groups. And it was a case of you could kind of stay in the group and that wasn't too hard. But as soon as you were dropped from that group, geez Louise, there was no, like, you had to be so much stronger to actually move up and through the field, which again, I think is a credit to every rider that did manage to go from further back to further forward. I think we're going to bring up a very similar name to we did earlier, to be quite honest.
Well, they and,
a number of names did some good moves up in Flammanville for sure.
Yeah, I was at one point in Flamanville. I'll keep a few notes for these races for the Crosscast, and that's one thing. It's like, oh, Zan looks like she's in a group of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was like I couldn't tell how big this group was at various times.
Yeah, it was definitely, I think I had a group of 6 or 7 at one point, which is ridiculous. As I said, it's a course that you'd look at that course and you wouldn't expect it, but then as soon as we came to race it, that was it. And a lot of the time, like, they were quite strung out groups. It was pretty much a case of you were in a line. But what I found is the passing places were the straights, which weren't very many, and a lot of the technical sections, and you probably saw it in the men's race when they were kind of like trying to get around each other, a lot of technical stuff you couldn't really overtake on, so you could control the pace at the front and slow the people down in front if you were at the front. But actually, it was so hard to get around anywhere but a straight section on that course.
Yeah, and then I've called it Chaos Corner, the entry onto the start-finish straight, where in the men's race it was more obvious. I think lots of people sliding off, and in fact you could see them, the wheels twitching, and it was pretty bad for a lot of riders before those ones who actually came off. How was it in your race?
Yeah, like I say though, actually quite a lot of courses. I think it's probably because of tyre choice. Now, as I said, it wasn't that muddy, but we had sections or ruts that did feel a bit muddy, and I saw every single tyre tread, from a file tread to a middle mud to a full mud to an intermediate. People were running all sorts, and I personally was on like an intermediate tread, which was great for most of the course, but there were a few corners like that one where if you pushed it a little bit too hard, one of your wheels was definitely going to slide. Luckily, I was like always in a place where it was quite a controlled exit, so I was okay, but I did also see a few people not come off, but definitely skid out a lot more than they were hoping to.
Yeah. And then Matt asked you a question last time. He wanted you to report back on the pontoon. How did that? What was that like? It was really difficult to see on the TV as to kind of if it was just like a bit of road or if it was felt really bobby and like you're on a raft.
It, to be honest, felt incredibly stable. I've been on flyovers and bridges that have felt a lot less stable than that did. Like most of them, like it makes that little budunk noise when you get on it, but actually you never felt like you were bobbing up and down. The exit and entrance were always the same. They were always quite smooth. But to be honest, it was a pretty sturdy, pretty stable, pretty decent bridge, I would say.
It was super wide as well. I was looking at it going, that's like a motorway. It's massive this time. We see them before. UCI width, of course, minimum course width is 3 meters for any UCI event, and you see 3 meters. That looked like it was about 6. It was as wide as the start. It was finished straight. It was massive. I thought the course looked like it flowed well. I thought some interesting comments from Nys actually about it in the press, about basically how he was very, very scathing about Belgium and how, existing race organisers being complacent. And I'm paraphrasing here. I mean, I don't suggest everybody has a read of what he actually said, but I know there were a number of French cyclocross organisers who I know were going, thank you, because we've been at the butt end of people's jokes for a while, and actually, we do some great courses, and thank you very much. And actually, we're brilliant, and he made their day for sure.
I think he's right, I have to say, and I think people have been saying it for a long time. But I don't think there's anyone else who could have made that comment and got away with it. And it would have been taken that seriously. He is. If any of the other Belgian riders had said it, I think they might have had a hard time. But I think it's that he's got a real authority. I know he's only young, but he kind of has an authority. And
he's grown up. He's grown up riding them, and I think that's whilst he's only young, he's got so much experience and broad experience because he's been able to be at that level for so long.
Yeah, well, having said that, I'm pretty scathing about his one. Of course, in his back garden.
Well, I have to say it's his dad's back garden. Let's go with that.
That is, let's go with that. Go back to that Woods race. It was Van Alphen at the front. She kept things really controlled. She took the win, and it was home rider Foucault in second, and Alvarado, who finished in third. Again, it's a bit like the men's Tabor race. So I think all three of those should have come at the end of that race like, yes, that was really, really good. They might have wanted something a bit different, but I just thought Van Alphen was so controlled. Foucault, of course, she's racing at home and gets a decent podium. And Alvarado, she just didn't hang about, did she? She showed her class from lap one. And I was starting
to work for that, though. Really. You look at how many different people she was racing and still got second. She raced against loads of different people through the course of that race. She had it was like musical chairs. Whose turn is it at the moment to go race Anadine Foucault? Oh, it's your turn. Okay, carry on. All right, you've had your go. Out of the way. My turn now. And then I think you said they might have wanted a different result. I think Sailing Alvarado must have gone, thank you very much. I'll take that. I'm back, and I've come in third. I know she's a born winner and probably wants to win everything, but do you know what? That was a great return.
But on that, if for people who maybe haven't watched it yet, get your stopwatch out. Have a look at her when she goes round there's that section of switchbacks on the bank, a bit like the one
before the right turn back
Derby.
up.
And she takes 2 seconds out of people in that one section. She's outskilling people. This is Rusty Alvarado. This is her first race of the year. Again, racing people who've been out there everywhere. And she was it's so notable how much extra speed she was taking around those. The bit we mean, the kind of on the bank, which kind of you go along the straight and then the 180 round and then you come back.
That's really techie 180. Mm-hmm.
How was it techie?
It was one of those really interesting sections, and I always find this. So there's a lot of courses that do them, and I think when they do, it's really good. It was probably quicker to run it, but it was so much quicker to exit it if you were already on the bike, especially because it comes as a drag out of it. And no matter where I was, because I moved forward and backwards throughout the race into slightly different groups, there would always be someone in your group running, and there'd always be someone riding it, and it wasn't normally quite decisive. And I think it probably played a bit more effect in the men's race. I think we saw the one lap where Thibaut Nys got it wrong towards the end, which could have been a completely different ball game if had he not had Lars in that race with him. But never star on that one. But it definitely, I think it was interesting. I think it almost wasn't long enough or big enough to make it super decisive. But I do love those sections where it does. You get that kind of what is the right choice, and there isn't a right one.
Yeah, so that whole section was. You look at it on a map, and it doesn't look that techie. You see the difference that people make on it, and you think, yes, actually, this is. I mean, Nys was he made it 2 out of 2. Van der Haar is not looking like someone who's kind of having an easy final season. And then he timed that final attack with Mason, who finished in third. Yeah, again, it's one where I do wonder, if Lars hadn't been defending Nys, what could have happened? Not only with Mason, but what could have happened with Lars as well? It would have been a fascinating thing if he was let off the leash a few laps earlier. Honestly, I don't think the winner would have been any different, but
it played to his advantage as well, because he came across with Mason. He was using the fact that he was playing teammate to be in that position. I'm not sure whether Lars would have been there in that position in the top four if Nys hadn't been off the front, because Lars could just surf wheels. When Lars went to the front, he made it hard and then he recovered. He didn't just sit there working all the way round. Where he didn't do anything to close down a gap unless he was wanting to get across. There was no, for me, he profited from other people a lot. Actually, I thought it was super smart riding. Super smart riding. It's like he sat there and he went, right, well, you need to get up there, so I'm going to wait until you go across and I'll follow you over there, because my teammate's up there and I don't need to go after him. So I'm just going to sit and wait, and you will go and I will wait. And they did, and he followed. And he did that time and time again. I thought it was a masterclass from the Belwast Glory Lions. Absolute masterclass from them. And kind of wished that we had the previous team, who were notorious for their teamwork together in the men's racing, who used to stick it to everybody else in a team manner, there to sort of get it on the receiving end of it, and they weren't anywhere near the front really to take it. So it kind of like it changed a lot.
And then there was that at the end, Mason. That's his best ever World Cup result, but he was so disappointed. Really, really interesting. What do you think? Is that fair enough, or is it?
See, sometimes I personally think that's what makes a racer. As long as you can also sit there and be like, you know what, I did well today. This is like one of my best. But actually, I was so close and I want more. And that's kind of, to me, what sets apart the people who do go on to win races and do go on to do better, because he sat there and gone, yeah, okay, I've done well, but actually I want to do more. And that's going to like fire him up for the next few races in his training. Like for the next few weeks, he's going to be thinking like, I was that close. I am this close to getting it. And like, I do think it's fair enough being, as I said, as long as he can accept the fact that how well he's done, the step he's taken forward from last season.
I think it's proven winner. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Zan. He went there to win. He knows he can win. This really almost rubbed in the fact he can win, but he didn't. And you could see that disappointment, even though it was his best performance. And that drives people on. It's that phrase, it's a phrase I absolutely love and yet detest at the same time, of second place is first loser. Because for me, everybody who's racing is winning straight away, because you're miles in front of anything that most normal human beings can do, full stop. And yet, actually, it is also so true, because you're not the winner. There is one winner, and the winner of that round was Thibaut Nys. It wasn't Cam Mason, and it could have been Cam Mason. It so nearly was Cam Mason, and it will come. The fact I don't want to sound like a Cam Mason fanboy, but I've met Cam on multiple occasions, and I have to say, of all the people I bump into at events, he's one of the nicest, if not the nicest person that you ever meet. He's always got time to say hello, and I remember walking back from leaving the race venue at the World Champs and chatting with him about his season and how it went. And honestly, I could have just spent the rest of the evening chatting with him. It was just wonderful. And he's still got that, but at the same time, he seems to have shifted into this. I want that. I want that top spot. I might be here, but I want to be over there, and I want to be on that top spot, and that is going to be mine. And I think it's an interesting shift. Very interesting shift. Very, very much so. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward, and particularly given the fact that we've now come into this this shift. I mean, Zane, you said it yourself. It's you're back not in. You've not travelled down to the Mediterranean, and it's that we're now going to see a shift, and we've almost reached the end of chapter 1 of the World Cup.
Yeah.
Because the World Cup, we've seen our first 2 rounds. We now know who's going well, who's not. And now we get a bit of a break, and some riders go better for breaks and some people don't.
Yeah. Well, that I think it's time to actually take the bell and look forward to what's coming up in the Laatste Ronde. So
I love the fact your face lights up every time that works on the show.
I know. Easily.
It doesn't get old, does it? After 100 shows, that still doesn't get old.
No, and I recorded that with my phone off of the telly back in 10 years ago. It was perfect. Anyway,
is it still the same clip?
Yeah.
You've never changed it? Fantastic.
No,
brilliant.
I did quite a lot of editing and cleaning it up, I have to say, but I'm still pleased with it. Yeah, it's great. I could have it as my ringtone, couldn't I? I ought to. Anyway, there we go. So we've got these 4 really different races coming up. Where should we begin? Let's start at home in Tong, Hunsworth, Bradford.
Click on those facts.
Yeah, it's quite a range of names, but I think Hunsworth is the place this time. The race organizer told me I'd raced there before, because I wasn't quite sure. And so he said, "You've raced there before. I know you have." And that was, I know that I've raced there for, it was I don't know what it was called, but everyone knew it as the COVID
no-nonsense cyclocross, I think.
That was it, yeah. So we all knew it as COVID cross at the time, I think. So it was, for those people that were there, they made it was this bizarre socially distanced cyclocross up to as much of a point as you can. And the grid was this 3x3 meter squares, wasn't it? This absolutely massive matrix of riders who were all distanced 3 meters apart from each other, or however many meters apart it had to be. And
it made a great start.
It was really good.
Joking aside, I actually thought it made for a great start, and it did mean that your grid position was relatively unimportant because there was always somewhere to get through.
It was great. And the other brilliant thing that I remember speaking on the Crosscast, actually, that I hoped that it would become the norm, but it hasn't, was your sign-on was as you drove onto the site, and as you went into the car park, you opened
it was a drive-through, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I went with the rider, and the riders sort of pulled up, and it was like, "Why do you wind it up? There's your envelope."
Yeah.
So have an envelope full of your things. I thought it was really, really good.
But
I also know plenty of people who love doing the sign-on duty and meeting all the riders, and it would have deprived people of that. So I think as volunteers putting on the race, if part of that is meeting the riders and being on sign-on, that's your thing, and you love doing that, I can see that, a drive-through experience is probably not quite what you signed up to be a volunteer for. to be a bit like a Starbucks or a Costa Coffee drive-through or whatever.
Yeah, my memories of that course is that it didn't have a lot of features, the natural features. It had a few, and effectively
it's on the side of it's a big open field, isn't it? On the side of the hillside. Actually, I know it really well because I used to live about a mile from there. For in my teenage years, I actually lived around the corner.
Yeah.
Well, I believe,
little known fact,
we also raced there for the Hope Supercross last year, so it was one of the rounds there. I would say it made for decent racing, because last year at the Hope Series we had the first few rounds at the same venue, which made very close group racing, and it did actually make for a bit more split up racing than the previous rounds. But it's kind of just like this big steep kind of, or not even super steep, like this big field that's on a bit of a gradient. You kind of went up, down, wiggled across it. I think there were a few tricky corners. I think they put the hurdles in a weird place at the Hope Cross to try and make that more tricky.
And there's the bank, isn't there, where the dry stone wall or the wall is, and it's like a bank over the top. And I know when one event they had to sort of dodge around the rabbit holes, and you're doing a little bit of homework on what you actually need to provide for, what's the cost burden on organisers, and it's between UCI and British Cycling. So for British Cycling, you should have it's not a massive list, but toilet facilities pretty straightforward. But hot showers and covered changing accommodation in a field, actually, having done that for a World Cup in Dolby Forest, I know how difficult that is. So to do that in the middle of Cleck-Huddersfield on a open field, to get that to be a British cycling event, that's pretty impressive. To be a UCI event, you've got to have water in the pit. You can't cross the course for water. So to get that in, that must be Hope, I'm sure, and the amazing team at Hope who've helped facilitate that, who do a brilliant job. They help Shipton, I know, a lot. So that's really good. It'd be interesting to see the course design, because I'm sure it's 100 metres. The finish straight's 100 metres. It's 6 metres wide, and it's 150 metres for your start. I've had to read the regs, you can tell, can't you, for going on the mic later. But it's 150 metres start, 6 metres wide, 100 metres of finish, 6 metres wide, and it's got to be 3 metres wide all the way around, everywhere. That's some going to get that in that field. That's really impressive course design. That must have caused somebody some real headaches. Neil would have had a spreadsheet for that, wouldn't you? You would, Neil. You'd have had to have had a spreadsheet for that.
As you
but
both
to be
know,
able to,
I have a spreadsheet for the Crosscast, so come on.
Well, yes, for you have a spreadsheet for everything. No, I'm really impressed that from what was a field brought in for COVID, that now this is a venue that is capable of hosting a UCI standard event and a British cycling top level event, and it has all that facility in.
Well,
it's quite impressive.
Yeah, well, we'll see what it's actually like. I've not had the race manual yet. As far as I've not seen the race manual, and actually I don't know what to expect, because it's not like a venue where we've been there 20 times. They've got a course, and it's going to be more or less the same course, because everyone knows and loves that course. So it could be anything really. If you look at if I was looking at the Strava heat map actually of where the course was last year, and compared that to the course that I raced there, and it's entirely different. So they've
got a really inventive course team. I think it's one of the real strengths of Shipton. They pull events courses out of it's different every time. Somebody must love doing that. It's a labour of love, that changing it that often.
Yeah,
impressive.
And we see in every certainly in the UK, in Belgium, and everywhere, people have different interpretations of what goes on the courses. I don't know what we're going to see. We'll find out soon enough.
Would Thibaut Nys approve? Will it get the Thibaut Nys approval if he were to race it? You'll have to let us know. If you think Thibaut Nys would have approved of the course design, did it flow? Was it inventive? I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. And if you want to have a mini preview, if you go on to, I was just checking, it's still there actually, on Google Maps, there's a 2025 image, and you can see all of these.
Is there really?
All of the spaghetti where the course, the worn course has been on there, and I've got no idea where it
might just be typing it in right at this moment in time.
But yeah, you can. So it's that it could be anywhere, and it's on a slope. What I do very very well remember is it's tough going on the course. But honestly, we don't know quite what the details are going to be. Looking forward to it though. Looking forward to it very much. Actually, it's going to be nice to be somewhere that's a new venue like we have every year, and as you say, Matt, it's that organising team who have they've got the resource there. They know how to put on a good event, and it's sort of take it in their stride. And certainly as one of the race organising people from just the local race last week, it's tough to do that. So total respect to them. But Zan, are you going to be there, or are you going to be in Sardinia, or are you going to be somewhere else, get into training blocking?
I'm basically getting rid of the training. Like I keep sitting there going, oh, you know what? I just love racing in the UK. I love seeing the people in the UK at cross races, and I feel like the more you race abroad, the less you get to do that. And it's like, oh, I just happen to be in the UK, but it's like kind of having that like, actually, you know what? I need the week off, especially with how long the season is and how busy December is. So I'll be just at home, kind of just relaxing, just chilling, trying not to like get that fear of missing out from not being there. But I will be very jealous, especially if it's raining, because I seem to, the fact I'm not going to be there, it's probably going to be wet, slippy, and muddy. So
Yeah.
I imagine the rest of you guys will have lots of fun, and
Well,
I
so I
will
thought it was going to
be
be
wishing I
snowy.
was there.
Yeah, like last year's. Well,
Aw.
when with the issues they had last year with it being snowy. So you're not going to be there, and you're not going to be at Cabras,
Unfortunately not.
Terralba, Sardinia, Italy. I've had seen all these names come up.
Yeah.
No one's actually raced there as a World Cup. Matt, you watched it last year.
I
seem
did
to remember
actually
you
watch.
on
Yeah,
the
I
white.
watched loads and loads of the course
Yeah.
actually last year. Literally sat in the studio watching the wind blow over past the camera shots with the director sort of going from thing to thing, just going, I want to put racing on here, but it's a different venue. So whilst it's still Sardinia, it's moved down the coastline. So effectively, how's the best way to describe it? If Sardinia is a big portrait-shaped piece of A4 paper, it's on, you've got a map, and it's basically a map of Sardinia. It's basically a big square portrait, not landscape, not the flat one, the tall, thin one. It's basically, as you look at a map, it's on the left-hand side, halfway down. It's really easy. So think, basically, West Coast, halfway down. There's a big bay. It's a lovely, beautiful horseshoe bay. And instead of being at the top of the horseshoe bay, where the old ancient history is, we're down at the bottom by the marina this time round. So going down to the base of the marina sort of side of it, it's still the same beautiful lagoon. It's still the same Mediterranean Sea. It's still on the shore. Well, most of it. It's kind of on the shore. It's got a lot more tarmac actually, because it goes shooting around the side of the marina area, and then it goes into. Best description is, you remember that you know the woods that we have when we go to Spain for the World Cup. When we go to Spain for the World Cup, and we're there, and you're down there in Benidorm, sat on the beach side. We thinking bucket of space. It wasn't. It was scrubby trees. It's open woodland. It's not a forest, is what I'm trying to say. It's not like Neil's reforested bit of Kenya. This is these are they're kind of the trees that you see in the middle of the African plain, with the big trunk and the flat top, and not a lot else around them. And in this case, it's a lot of dust and sand, because it really is on the side. I think it'd be really interesting to see what they did. They did.
Yeah.
Everyone who rode the course, I think you spoke to people, didn't you, Sam? Everyone I spoke to said, I want to come back. This was an amazing course, and it was brilliant when we rode it yesterday. It just blew away on the day of the event.
The people I spoke to were like, they could have ran it on the Saturday, they could have ran it on the Monday. It was just that Sunday where the weather was awful. But as you say, everyone I spoke to either said they loved visiting like the area, like it was such a wonderful place to go, or that they just really enjoyed the course. And it was a shame they didn't get to race it, because they reckon it would have been a really good, really interesting race. Hopefully it would have raced as well on TV as it would have been fun for the riders. But hopefully this year we are going to get to see that. And I'm really glad it actually has gone back, because it could have easily, they cancelled it last year and they've not had it back. So the fact they've got it back, I think, is really quite nice. So I'm just actually excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that it will. Yeah, so I'm hoping it's a brilliant racing and it becomes a classic venue. I think it's got its work cut out, because it's so difficult to get to, expensive to get to, just in terms of the travel.
It's not going to be a cheap trip, is it, for people? I think that's it's always a difficult thing, isn't it? And it's not super close to anywhere in Sardinia either, to be fair.
Yeah, and if the start lists are already out, and they're not looking rammed. There's a lot of people taking a break, aren't there?
Yeah, I've actually got the start list up on the screen just there. that way slightly. Looking at the start list, you kind of like, so we've got all the big favourites are there, but then, you compare the names that are there with those who said they're going to go. It's a bit like, not sure all these were going to go, but according to the start list, you've got Brand, you've got Casasola, you've got Alvarado, Van Alphen, you've got Benfeld, and you've got the people that you would kind of expect to be up at the front in the women's race. In the men's race, Nieuwenhuis, Ronhaar, are going. Van Torenhout's there, Toonets is there, Sveek's going, which made Neil happy, I'm sure. Got to get his Sveek moment in. But you've not got Nys, you've not got Mason. They're out training. They're putting the training block in. I think it'd be really interesting to see who actually turns up from races and who maximises the points. I mean, Zan, if you must be almost kicking yourself about not going in some ways, because it's the field is kind of like we've got the front runners who we know are going to be in that battle for the front of the race, but actually you're there. Well, you're not.
It's
sorry.
No, it's fine. It's one of those hard ones because especially with the World Cup series. The one downside is we used to run the World Cup series. It kind of started in October, ended in February, but we had weeks off. We now have a World Cup every weekend from the end of November to the basically World Champs. And that makes it really hard as a rider to commit to every round. And you have this toss-up. It's like, do you pick the ones that suit you? Like as a rider, you typically will need to have a break for at least one of those weekends. And I made the call quite early that I'm more actually better somewhere where there is, a bit more technical elements or maybe like a bit more mud, which is what I keep aiming for and hoping for. I kind of made the call
that... It would have been the only muddy race in Sardinia, you realise.
Could you imagine?
Now.
Yes. But when you look at it on paper, this one is probably one that is going to be dry. So that's kind of how I made the call to skip this one. I'm like, you look at the start list and you're like, I wish I was there. But I had to stay true and to my decision and be like, actually, no, I've made the right call. And truthfully, we're not going to know if I've made the right call until probably we hit February. But right now, I'm kind of confident, but I am going to be sitting there watching it like, I wish I was there.
I hope we know the right call. You made the right call because you come back racing and don't get injured and don't end up overtrained or over-raced or actually improve through the season, and you don't end up having your body falling apart on you somewhere between now and the end of the season. And when it all goes right, it's very hard to actually just go back and go, actually, that's because I was smart and I stopped racing. Yeah, I know in another cycling discipline, and I won't say which one it is, actually a rider who has not had a week off racing at the very, very highest level now for over a year. And they're not improving hugely. And you just think you're not giving yourself a chance to race. They're racing at least once a week at the very highest level. You're thinking, you're going to break. You need to get some rest in. That's not what you need to do.
Yeah.
That's not going to help you long term.
Rest is such a hard thing. Because with rest, what you'll find is you don't know you need to rest until you've taken rest. It's one of those ones like if you've never stopped, never had the break, you'll never realise the benefits of having that break. And that's something I've had to learn the last few years. And I'm sure there's many other riders in the similar
position. It doesn't matter what level you're at. I mean, we're talking about world class here, riders like yourself, Sam. But it doesn't matter whether you're, the front of a world class field like you'd be, or like I would be at the back of the local league. That rest is just as important.
Agreed.
Yeah. Whoever you
are. At the moment, we've got Nys. I'm just looking at World Cup, the overall standings. So Nys is well ahead, but there's only Nieuwenhuis and Sveek. It's either going to be Nys, Nieuwenhuis, or Sveek who are going to be leading the World Cup after this round, because no one else is in with a shout, even if they win it. So I think we've got a chance of seeing the jersey change, but not guaranteed. No, if Sveek doesn't finish on the podium, I don't think he's going to be able to
get enough points.
And it's the same with Nieuwenhuis. So it might even be that Nys manages to keep that weird jersey that I don't really like. Afterwards, I'm sure you'd wear it if you could.
We should have a poll. Just of us.
Who likes the jersey?
Who likes the? Am I allowed to plead? Am I allowed to plead out of this one, please, boss?
Yeah.
Might have a slight conflict of interest here.
Yeah.
Who really loves the jersey? Who thinks it's amazing?
I find it confusing, actually. That's the thing with it. It looks too much like a team kit. To me, it's when it's kind of straightforward. The leader is wearing this all white, or the leader is wearing all yellow. Yeah, you can see it. But when you think, oh, what's that weird team? And imagine what it's going to be like when we get the new kits come out in January.
Yeah, well, we joked originally. We were like, "Oh, if they have to change the World Cup jersey because the Pal Sal's kit is too similar." I know that's obviously not going to be the reason, but I did look at the Pal Sal's kit when that was launched this year, and I was like, "That looks like the World Cup jersey."
Yeah, maybe. So anyway, that one is Cabras. We'll see. Obviously, come back next time. We'll see what it's like, and then we've got. Actually, let's keep on the World Cups. Then, Zan, you are surely you're going to Namur.
Yeah, you remember at the start of the episode where you were like, my favourite race? I thought you were about to say Namur because, surprise, surprise, Namur is my favourite race on the calendar. I absolutely love it. And if anyone remembers last year, we did mention it in the show, it didn't go particularly well. Well, it did, and then it didn't last year. If you were watching on TV, you probably watched me lie down and faceplant on the ground. But even so, I just love that course so much. Like, to me, yeah, some people always argue like it's on the line of, is it a cross course, is it a mountain bike course? Because some of the descents are a bit tricky. It is technical. It has some like borderline scary descent, but it is so much fun. I absolutely love it. And Ben Chilton, who used to race a lot more cross than he does now, he did it at Euros one year, and some of you might remember it broke his kneecap on the cobbled bit. And he turned around and was like, well, it's my fault. I decided to ride that. If I'd run it, I wouldn't have done it. So it's fair enough. And like, to have that head at his age is impressive. But that's kind of, obviously we don't want to be seeing those injuries across, and we do see changes to the courses when these injuries happen as they're trying to reduce it. But it is a scary course, it is a technical course, and it's one you need some skill and some wits about you to be able to get around safely, or decide to run sections if you feel like that's more comfortable for you.
Is that not the whole point of cyclocross that differentiates it from everything else?
Yes.
Is the skill level required and the mental processing about not just the skill to get round and survive the course, but the skill to race the course fast and bring you and your bike in one piece to the finish, and yet at the same time know what is your absolute limit, and as it changes with the weather and the course there. And I think it's one of the courses, for me, I look at it and I watch it and I think throughout the course of the weekend, the day, never mind over the years, it changes the most dependent on the weather. It really seems to, it really affects it really, really very much so. And, you were talking earlier, Zan, about the change, it was getting colder at Tabor and it was getting icier. Well, Namur, you can go from it being okay to it being absolutely hair-raisingly scary in very, very short order.
Yeah, and it can also go the other way around as well. I've seen it go from being really wet in practice in the morning to actually fairly dry in the afternoon. Obviously, never bone dry, but actually you've gone from a mud tyre back to an intermediate because it's dried out that much.
I've heard people say before that it's been the course has been used so much that actually there's a lot of ruts and sort of things that were there from previous years that are still there, a year or several years later, and actually they can be a bit treacherous even when you right at the beginning of practice. Yeah. So I mean, one thing I was going to ask you actually, Sam, about Namur is obviously you mentioned it's really technical, and the TV coverage, of course, focuses on the very front of the race. Do you find Phil, as when you see kind of in that midfield, you see a different group of riders? Do you think that there's a big difference at that point, or is it a little bit more wacky races sometimes?
I think it's definitely really interesting. Like when you start coming further back, you see that people who have strengths, like probably more like myself, where it is the sense, it is the very technical features, it's the ruts, and you see those that are kind of getting to where they are by more power necessarily than skill. And I find for me when I'm racing, we're kind of yo-yoing. It's like someone's going to be really strong up the cobbled climb, and then I'm going to try and come past them on that rutted off camber section. So I think it actually almost makes the racing even closer where we are, because you've got both. You've got the really powerful ones and the really skilled ones, and actually we're now closer together. I think it's just a great race, and that's why the crowds at Namur are always absolutely insane. Like, it's one of the best crowd races I've personally feel like when I go racing.
I'm getting goosebumps already.
Me too, don't you worry.
Yeah. In between those two World Cups, though, there is Kortrijk, which I really like it. It's I think it makes for good spectator racing, and I think for people who go over to the continent to race UCI races on the continent, a lot of them I've heard say that it's their favourite race. There's something nice about it. It's of Kortrijk. It's the one that goes. It's right in the town centre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I sort of feel it's like you've got flower beds. That's what it looks like they're racing on. It's like these would be flower beds if it wasn't for this race. And then over the bridges, they just put a new pedestrian bridge in Nottingham, by the way. I just think, maybe this could be Kortrijk coming along. So yeah, it's I really enjoy it. I like the cinematography that you can get at Kortrijk, and it does, not always, but it can bring out good racing. And sometimes it's one of the first races that when you get the riders coming back who are kind of getting their legs going, ready for Namur.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this. You're like, it's my favorite. It's one of my favorite courses. I'm thinking, no.
It is. I'd say.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
With the plethora of courses and options, some real classics. Kortrijk, really?
I say that because it's just a bit of a surprise.
No,
I think
a surprise. Mad.
See, I think Kortrijk's one of those, I don't want to call them accessible courses, but it's one of those more, I think that's the best word that fits it. It's one that if you're a rider who's kind of raced at national trophy level and you're looking for kind of maybe the next step up, you want some more exciting features like a bit of a sandpit and a bit exciting. It's one of those courses that I'd be like, this is a really good race for you to go and do, especially where it falls right now, because you are in the World Cup season, so the fields aren't as big. Yes, you're going to still probably see, especially this year being X2O series race, you're going to see the big dogs there. But the field's not going to feel as intimidating because we're probably going to be field sizes of 30, possibly 40. And it's a course that most riders can get around. Like, yes, you might not make it as far in the sandpit. Yes, you might be a little bit, but you'll probably get a good chunk of the race in. You'll have a good time. And it is a course that's really fun to ride with a decent atmosphere. So we're not talking the more, no offence to Kortrijk, but it is a good fun race. And it's one I'd recommend going to if you're looking for a race to go try out in Belgium.
Zan, you have summed it up absolutely perfectly. I think that is the perfect description of that race, and that's probably why the riders that come back are so enthused by it. I think you're absolutely right. If you're wanting the next step up from the national trophy and you're not at World Cup level, it's probably a really brilliant one to go to. So So good luck, Zan. We're really looking forward to seeing you when you're back from your mini break, this time in the UK rather than in, where was it last time, Spain or somewhere, so and looking
Mallorca
forward
last time, yes.
Yeah, to getting back for Namur. Matt, I think it's probably still too early in the season for you to be on the mic for any of these.
It is. I don't take over duties from Anne McCrossan until Havre, which I think is the 26th of December. So I come right in the middle of the cursed period. So I'll have been watching as much as I can into that point, as well as sort of getting out to some of the local crosses here. But it'll be Anne McCrossan till the one before Havre, which I can't remember what it is, which shows you that I'm already
Antwerp and Coxsider is the double World Cup
before.
It's
a double weekend, isn't it? Yeah, it's the double weekend before, so yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you've got it down, Zan, because you need
Oh,
to know this. It's hardwired in somewhere. Yes, it's no. So it is a case of I get to watch it because I get to watch all of them twice now because I'll watch them both. Well, some of them 3 times because I'm trying to watch them in French as well
Brilliant.
as
Excellent.
English
Yeah.
and on the UCI feed as well. So
Yeah.
a mix. Why not? Because like once isn't enough. It's cyclocross, of course it isn't.
Yeah.
Keep seeing different things each time you watch it.
And Zan, I don't know how much you've rewatched it, but you got some good shout outs on your course preview on at least one of the commentaries that I watched from Flammanville. So that was nice to see. And of course, the best place to find where those are is.
So my social medias are pretty much all Zan Crees. It'll be somewhere so you can figure out how to spell that one. But yeah, Instagram's where most of my stuff goes, but I'm on pretty much everything like Facebook, Twitter or X, TikTok, all of those ones. And yeah, Matt, whereabouts are we finding you at the moment?
Mostly cutting up recycled wood in the woodyard, in between riding the bike, which has happened quite a lot, I have to say. Even went on the turbo train the other day. Don't tell anybody. I was on my wish putting in some rides on there. Did a race on there as well. Didn't win.
Oh.
Was gutted. Out sprinted by. I lost it by half a second. I was absolutely gutted. I might have thrown the water bottle at the wall in disgust. Did happen. I'm really good loser, me. Not. It's the reason I don't race very often. No, but you can get in touch with me. It's at Matt Fix the Pain on Instagram. Neil, where can we get hold of you? Or probably more importantly, where can we get hold of the Gritty team who are so busy putting on the events? And I understand now have an award-winning head honcho too.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, I was so chuffed. So Caroline's been announced as one of the 100 women in cycling from Cycling UK. So obviously she's absolutely delighted with that, and very highly deserved. I know I'm biased, but
doesn't make you wrong.
Does
that's always my view.
That's true. Yeah, it doesn't make me wrong. But yeah, so Caroline's just won that. So I'm absolutely delighted with that.
Congratulations.
And that's as a industry mogul, I think is the expression. And so if you want to find out much more about what she does, then go over to Gritty Kit and you can find all of the kit and everything else. We've got all of those Christmas presents that you may want for yourself or for other people. So yeah, pop over to Gritty Kit pop over to gritty.co.uk or go to Gritty Kit on Instagram. And if you're catching up with this a bit and it's a bit late to get any deliveries, then we do vouchers as well. If you are looking for that late Christmas gift. So yeah, that'll be good. You can find me at Crosscast Neil on pretty much everything. And if you would like to buy us a Christmas gift, then, well, actually, we'd like you to support the show if you can by going over to buymeacoffee.com/crosscast, and there you can buy us a coffee, Christmas coffee, and that will get converted into our hosting fees that, as I have often said, we pay for 12 months of the year, so that the Crosscast will remain and it doesn't get deleted, and you can then get your back catalogue, which by now is 99.99 episodes long. So well done, everyone, if you've been with us for all of that time. We really appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Anne, for making it so much fun to do. And until next time, we'll see you on the other side of the tape. Bye.